Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gate of Heaven video diary, where we are continuing our journey through the Dawnbreakers to get to know the story behind Gate of Heaven, my new album, which is based on the words of the Bab, whose life is being celebrated this year, the 200th anniversary of his birth. And in the last video, we had looked at this episode in the story when the Bab has come to Esfahan. But while he's in Esfahan, his fame is growing. The governor of Esfahan has become totally enamored with the Bab. But the religious leaders of Esfahan have become extremely fearful that the Bab is undermining their authority, and that more and more people are becoming attracted to him, which they see as a threat to their positions of power. And so the clerics of Esfahan, in the last video, they had gathered together and they had drawn up a document accusing the Bab of heresy and issuing a decree for his execution. And the governor, Manúchihr Khán, on learning about this, decides that he wants to prevent this from happening, and he hatches a plan to protect the Bab. What he does is he makes a public announcement to the city of Esfahan that he is sending the Bab away. He is sending the Bab to Tehran, to the capital, and the king will deal with him. And he arranges a very public departure of the Bab from Esfahan. He arranges for an army of 500 soldiers full of military pomp to publicly march out of Esfahan, escorting the Bab outside of the city in the direction of Tehran. And so all the citizens of Esfahan, they watch with their own eyes the Bab leaving their city and, going off into the distance, escorted by this army. But Manúchihr Khán has given secret instructions to the general of this army. He's told him that after, say, about 20 miles, 100 of the soldiers will split off and come back to Esfahan. And then after another, say 20 miles, another 100 soldiers will split off and come back, and so on and so forth. And when there are just 100 soldiers left, the instructions are that every few miles, 20 soldiers will split off again and go to some other village, and 20 to another village, and 20 to another village. And this goes on for miles and miles and miles outside of Esfahan. And eventually this army of 500 has dwindled down to just 10 soldiers marching across the countryside of Iran with the Bab. And these 10 soldiers are the most trusted 10 officers of Manúchihr Khán's army. And he has instructed these officers to now disguise the Bab, and under the cover of night bring him back to Esfahan and deliver him into his own into the governor's own private residence. And so for the following several months, the Bab actually lives as a secret guest in the home of the governor of Esfahan. And the governor he's entirely devoted to the Bab. And Manúchihr Khán he's a very successful, wealthy, highly influential politician. He's very close with the king of Iran, Mohammed Shah, and he wants to do everything that he can to not only to protect the Bab, but to actually ensure the success of his message and his religion. And he says to the Bab one night in the privacy of his home, "The Almighty Giver has endowed me with great riches. I know not how best to use them. Now that I have, by the aid of God, been led to recognize this revelation, it is my ardent desire to consecrate all my possessions to the furtherance of its interests and the spread of its fame. It is my intention to proceed by your leave to Tehran, and to do my best to win to this cause Mohammed Shah, whose confidence in me is firm and unshaken. I am certain that he will eagerly embrace it and will arise to promote it far and wide. Finally, I hope to be able to incline the hearts of the rulers and kings of the earth to this most wondrous cause." And the Bab listens very affectionately to Manúchihr Khán's offer. But he says to him, "May God requite you for your noble intentions. So lofty a purpose is to me even more precious than the act itself. Your days and mine are numbered, however. They are too short to enable me to witness and allow you to achieve the realization of your hopes. Not by the means which you fondly imagine will an almighty providence accomplish the triumph of his faith. Through the poor and lowly of this land, by the blood which these shall have shed in his path, will the omnipotent sovereign ensure the preservation and consolidate the foundation of his cause." And the Bab then gives to Manúchihr Khán a very poignant prediction. He says to him, "Of the span of your earthly life, there remain only 3 months and 9 days, after which you shall, with faith and certitude, hasten to your eternal abode." But far from despairing at this prediction that the Bab has just given him, the governor very calmly accepts his fate, and he sets his affairs in order, and he prepares for the things he needs to do for the brief remainder of his life. But the one thing that he's worried about is the fact that after he dies, he knows that his nephew, Gurgin Khán, is going to succeed him as the governor of Esfahan. And he knows that Gurgin Khán is going to be a brutal and rapacious ruler of the city. And he's worried that after his death, Gurgin Khán is going to discover the Bab and mistreat him. He says to him, "I am apprehensive for you. I tremble at the thought of being compelled to leave you to the mercy of so ruthless a successor as Gurgin Khán. He will, no doubt, discover your presence in this home, and will, I fear, grievously ill-treat you." But the Bab says to him, "Fear not. I have committed myself into the hands of God. My trust is in him. Such is the power which he has bestowed upon me, that if it be my wish, I can instill into the heart of the most wicked criminal the loftiest conceptions of uprightness and duty." And at this point in the conversation, the Bab makes what is to me the most strange and mysterious statement, perhaps in all of the Dawnbreakers. He says to Manúchihr Khán, "Of my own will have I chosen to be afflicted by my enemies, that God might accomplish the thing destined to be done." And to me, this is just the most revolutionary statement in the Dawnbreakers, because the sentiment expressed in this little sentence, "of my own will I have chosen to be afflicted by my enemies," it almost seems the opposite to how we often face our problems in life, our difficulties, that no matter who we are, we all struggle with difficulties and problems, and if there's one thing that we all have in common, it's that just being a human being entails having problems in life, and learning how to face those difficulties. And often I think we often try as hard as we can to escape from the inevitable difficulties of life. But perhaps the most fundamental question of how to be a human being might be the question, well, how do I approach the inevitable difficulties that I'm going to experience in my life, in my family's life, in the lives of my friends? How do I approach these difficulties? And here the Bab he's indicating that he is wholeheartedly embracing the difficulties that he knows are going to visit him. But the crucial thing here is that he's attaching to them a higher purpose. And I think this is just an extraordinary, liberating perspective on the issue of the difficulties of life. I'll read this one more time. He says, "Of my own will have I chosen to be afflicted by my enemies, that God might accomplish the thing destined to be done." So 3 months and 9 days after this conversation, Manúchihr Khán contracts a slight fever, which lasts only one night and very quickly brings his life to an end. And his nephew, Gurgin Khan, immediately takes the seat of the governorship of Esfahan, and he not only finds the Bab living secretly in the home of his uncle, but in the home of Manúchihr Khan, he also finds that Manúchihr Khan, in spite of the Bab's decline of his offer, has in fact written a will in which he has bequeathed all his wealth and all his possessions to the Bab. Well, Gurgin Khan destroys this will, takes all of Manúchihr Khan's possessions and wealth for himself, and reports the Bab to the king of Iran. And he writes to the king saying that he has found the Bab in the home of his predecessor in secret. He says to the king, "What am I to do?" And the king writes back to him and he says, "Send him to me." So in the next video we will see what happens as the Bab is summoned to the royal court of Muhammad Shah, the king of Iran. So thanks again for watching the videos. I really hope you're enjoying them. As usual, it would be so great if you would give this video a like or a love, share it with your networks, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you feel like you would like to support my work, you can become a patron at patreon.com/lukeslot. Don't forget there's going to be a new song released this Saturday, April 6th. It's called Forgiveness. And I hope you enjoy it. In the meantime, I hope you continue to enjoy the songs that are already released. Remover of Difficulties is below this video. Thanks very much. Bye.